Hello, everyone. It's Wednesday night. It's Telling Tales. It's Symbaroum. That's what we do around these parts every week on a Wednesday. And before I start bringing people on for recaps and character descriptions and all that kind of good stuff, let's get that lovely promo out of the way. If you check below this stream, you will find a number of links to YouTube and Twitch. Those are the two big ones. We stream on Twitch, and then all those streams go over onto YouTube. Check us out on both sites. There's also links to our Patreon, our Discord, our social media. Check those out if that's the kind of thing that floats your boat. We run a number of campaigns on the channel at the moment, although we're about kind of a break from a lot of things. Usually on Mondays that we run Vaesen. Johnny and the Monday crew run Vaesen. They are going to be returning after a brief break on Monday, the 11th of September. Wednesdays is, of course, Symbaroum. That's what this is all about. Thursdays is lying fallow at the moment until, I think I'm going to say, yes, Thursday, the 21st of September, when Sam will be bringing us some Wicked Ones. And then shortly after that, or maybe interspersed through it, Pierre is also going to conclude our apocalyptic survival mini-series of The Big Wet. We also have one-shots on a monthly basis. The most recent of those was this weekend just gone, which was Hell Night, which was a lot of fun. That'll be appearing on YouTube at some point soon. And also in September, we're not sure of a date yet, but Johnny will be running the third installment of his Space Age Call of Cthulhu stuff. So there we go. And we've got a whole load of other stuff planned for later in the year, which I'm sure you will find exciting and thrilling and possibly arousing if your standards are very, very low. So without any further ado on that, let's bring on our first player and let's start talking about what we all doing here. And it's Sam. Hi, Sam. How are you?
I'm good. Very happy to be on first as opposed to my normal last.
As opposed to your normal last, yeah. So Sam, you play Ascarai, Changeling Archer and Ranger, man of many arrows, mostly the same kind of arrows, though. Why don't you give us a rundown on the Witch Hammer? What's the big plot and what's happening?
So we are in the very dangerous but very treasure-filled Forest of Davokar. We've heard rumors that a treasure hunter named Almendra has discovered the way to the city of Symbar, and we are on a path to find this information ourselves. Whether, I think, for a variety of motivations, from wanting to loot it, wanting to keep that information safe, wanting to help Almendra. All depends on the person, but all those three are a bit intertwined. So far, we found out a few locations to go through from a previous traveling companion of Almendra, and we've gone to two of them already. We've gone to New Earthmore, where we found a girl who knew some information about where we'd kind of find this information and how to navigate around the tunnels under Karvosti, which is where we think this information can be found. And then we went to Fria Ligan, where we found some information on kind of the mechanisms that we'd need to get through a door or a gate to this information under Karvosti, which is like a kind of barbarian capital. Since then, both of those were very dangerous, but we survived okay. We've returned to Karvosti, and we got a bit of information about the next place we need to go, and then a contact who also has some more information about how to find this information, Yosefia, I think. And so the last place we need to go is a place called Yefron Isle. We've headed a little bit south, I think, to Jakar, maybe north to get a boat.
Oh yeah, it's Jakar is south of Karvosti. Yeah.
Okay, south to aiming to get a boat to take us to this place, Yefron Isle. And while all this has been going on, there's been a background of war brewing between the Ambrians in the south and the barbarians in the forest. Potentially, there's a kind of another barbarian kind of power rising that we don't really know a lot about. And also the Templars have broken away from the church and are saying that God is dead. So lots of fun stuff happening.
Lots of
in the meantime.
Yeah, lots of complications, I think it's safe to say. And I'll talk some more once we introduced everyone about exactly what happened last session. But before we do that, let's have all the other players on, and we're going to start with Chris, who comes to us joined by a friend.
Certainly is a friend.
A head friend. Not that kind. Chris, you play Steo, curmudgeonly former infantryman. How is Steo feeling about to set foot on the haunted shores of Yefferon Isle?
I think Steo's back, tactically back in his element after quite a lot of having to play politics. So this is not a comfortable place for him, but it's kind of becoming more comfortable than his adopted home. So it's quite a tricky situation. May you live in interesting times.
Yeah.
But I suppose no one wants to watch a TTRPG about farming, even though that's what Steo would like to be doing.
And even though that's what Chris would love to be running.
Yeah, say so.
So there we go. Lovely stuff. Let's bring on our next player. It's only bloody Stephen.
Not that guy.
Not that guy. Stephen plays Elindra, former Templar novice turned adventurer. Stephen, same question. How's Elindra feeling about to arrive at this rather foreboding place?
I think apprehensive. Like, we have heard nothing but bad things about this place, and everybody that we've spoken to has basically tried to persuade us not to go here. But it appears to be the least bad option available to us. So, yeah.
By that you mean the only one, if you want to continue on your current track.
Yeah, like I guess we could abandon the quest and then just piss off everyone. But
yeah, especially the long-time viewers of the campaign.
Yeah.
Especially
the queen, the clan chieftains, the patrons, everyone.
Yeah. Me. With a big stack of Throne of Thorns books behind me. Yeah, just fucked it off. Yeah.
All the people at Fria Ligan.
Yeah.
So we're going to Yefferon.
Ultimately. Ultimately. There we go. Okay, let's bring on our final player. It's John. Of course, it's John, who plays Arendar, kind of a lost noble son of House Dar. Well, actually, you're the found noble son of House Dar. Everyone else in House Dar is lost. It makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
How's Arendar feeling in this particular moment, John?
I think in this particular moment, quite glad that he doesn't currently have to make any decisions about whether or not to commit treason, ethical treason, questions of that kind of nature.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping he survives, as always, but
Yeah. I feel like you're far more invested in the survival of Ferrin, your meerkat, than you are in the survival of Sir Arendar.
That's fair. I think if something happens to Aaron, you'll let me take over Ferrin as a PC, right?
So last week, what we did is, as Sam alluded to, passage had been booked from Jakar to and after all that faffing with the images beforehand and getting it right, guess what's not working now? It's my image thing again. This is insane, lads. Okay, bear with me just a moment, fair viewers. Does this help?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes.
Amazing. So I have to tab into it first. That's crazy. I'm also going to shuffle this around a bit because I think this doesn't work well with that layout. So you booked passage north from Jakar with a friendly Zarek crew. And by book passage, you basically agree to work as security, essentially, on the ship as it crossed Lake Volgoma, which was mostly not hugely eventful. You did have some probably pirates sort of approach the ship, but you managed to sort of scare them off with a show of arms. You were also chased out of Jakar by someone, but you still don't know who that was, and they were easily lost and left behind by the more agile Zarek ship. They brought you to the northwest shore of Volgoma, to a Zarek village that could help you out. The elder there explained that you could either pay to be taken to Yefron or kind of buy your passage with some service for them. You chose the service, which was just to investigate further upshore at a campsite that they said there were kind of other Ambrians there. You investigated and it was empty. All you found was a carving of the son of Prios on a tree, some old lean-tos, and signs that someone had brought a boat to shore within the last week and then headed off towards the east on their own. So you don't really know yet what was happening with there. But you returned to the Zarek village and they brought you to Yefron. And I think we ended last week with essentially sort of the world juddering into a different shape as this mystical or cursed aura surrounding Yefron Isle rolled back to reveal sort of very blank, ruinous, foreboding shores. You could see a kind of like ridge of low hills in the middle distance, and a kind of sense of wrongness and a unsettling, keening, wailing noise coming from somewhere on the shoreline. We'll pick up there. The Zareks do not look like they particularly want to spend any longer here than they have to, and they are now paddling very fast for the shore.
What is the shoreline? Is this picture the shoreline?
Now, it says it is in the book, but it's quite different from the map. So I will say no, this is just for flavor, because otherwise I've got to kind of... so I'll remove it to avoid confusion. What the shoreline actually looks like, and let me get my map up. Not that I'm going to show you, you filth. What the shoreline actually looks like, as I say, you're on the western shoreline of Yefron. It is very low, very kind of the entire western shoreline is flat to the water. Essentially, you can see what looks like a river. Not a particularly wide one, but not small either, running from about the halfway point up the western coastline. And that seems to be running up towards, as I say, a ridge of low hills that basically block your view of any of the rest of the island. The island as a whole is quite foggy and misty, but you can sort of dimly make out the shape of ruins near this western shore, and they seem to be more or less covering like they're not directly on the shoreline, they're a little bit in, but they do seem to be pretty much all along the western shore. Like you can't see a start and a stop on them before you can see the edges of the isle. It's worth noting Yefron does not look large. You would estimate that this western shore, north to south, is in total about 1 kilometer.
Okay.
So not tiny, but not huge either.
Okay.
And if you had to guess, you'd say that it's probably a kilometer or a little over to those like ridge of hills in the distance as well.
I think even a long way out, Asgra's got his bow out and is ready for anything, because really doesn't have a good sense of what we're about to face.
Sure. Yeah, that seems perfectly accurate. Are we directing the Zareks to put you down anywhere in particular on this western shore? As I say, the only difference you can see, other than obviously if it was at the edges, then you'd be able to get to those shores more easier, is this river, which is coming out into the lake about pretty much in the middle of this western shoreline.
Sorry, go on.
If I recall, we are not supposed to approach from the south, but everything else is okay. Is okay.
From the
I
east.
thought we
Yeah, it's
approach
the
from the west,
southeast
but
is
we
when
land
you
on the east.
No. Eusebia said that they landed on the southeast and they did not have a good time.
Yeah, like
I think that's all
don't-
you know.
Yeah, the notes that I got were just don't land anywhere on the eastern shore. Like approach from the west, land on the western shore. She didn't say anything about a river or whether we should be north or south of that. So it's anyone's guess. So this basically bisects the island, right?
Or at least
Like it's-
certainly seems to run up to those to that ridge of hills. But from here, you can't tell if that ridge of hills is the end of the island or where the island goes on beyond.
But I mean, like, but yeah, it kind of runs like
Mhm.
east to west.
Yeah, you can see it kind of slightly glittering through the mist, and you get the impression that it has like a slight, like it's running slightly north as it goes easter, like more easterly. So it's kind of running northeast to southwest a little bit.
Can we get a sense of how big it is and how like fierce it looks? Like, is it
does not look fierce at all. You can't tell from here how deep it is.
Okay.
But it's maybe, I don't know. Let's say let's try and judge it purely based on this. I would say it looks from this about like 10 meters wide.
Okay.
Maybe a bit more.
And
at the opening.
And then an island this small, like you wouldn't imagine like a massive raging river, right? Like that's just not.
No, it definitely doesn't look like it's like. I mean, if it runs up to the hills, geography dictates it comes from the hills.
Okay.
And if it only flows about a kilometer, it's not gonna, unless there's a massive spring pouring out water at the top of that hill, and it's not gonna get very turbulent.
So we're in separate boats, which makes communicating between the boats difficult, particularly if we want to be quiet, which I do.
Mm-hmm.
But if nobody else appears to be directing the Zarex, I might see if I can work out whether the highest peak I can see is to the north or the south of that river. Like, I think getting high ground and getting a view over the island seems like a good thing to do. So I will try to direct our boat in that direction.
Sure. The hills seem much of a muchness.
Okay. Then I don't care.
Of the ruins that we can see, does it all look more or less the same? Is there any part of the ruins that looks more significant or bigger?
Well, you know what? Give me a vigilant roll at -4, please, Ascarai, because this mist is rather troublesome. But
okay. I need a 12. Rolled a 19.
Yeah, you can't tell. If anyone else is trying to look out for that, I know I don't like to flip rolls out to an entire group, but this seems like something that other people could be looking at if they want to try and make that roll.
I'm looking for anything that resembles a ziggurat, but I'm guessing from the description that there isn't, because
there is definitely, unless it's an exceptionally small ziggurat, there's nothing up to the hills. You can it's all misty, you can't really see that much detail, but you're pretty sure you'd see a ziggurat above this mist.
They're famously quite large structures, right?
Yeah, and like I say, all you can see is like a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer area roughly. And you can see all that from where you are. Okay. So I guess no one can tell if there's any part of those ruins more significant than any other. So did you say you're just kind of going to put down maybe by the river or near the river? Is that the idea?
Yeah, seems like if it goes up into the hills, and if the hills are much of a muchness, it's as good a path as any.
Sure.
To the hills.
Do we think we'd go on the north or the south shore of the river? I realize it might be evens. If you're going for the most central shore, it's the north shore. It's more towards the middle of the western shoreline.
I would go for the north, because the northwest is the exact opposite of the southeast.
Let's do that.
Good thinking.
Sure. It'll still be the north shore of the river is actually still, I guess, the south side of the island, because it's just a bit. It's fine. It's fine. It doesn't take long for the boats to reach that river, and as you get closer, you can see it is indeed very sluggish, as it's sort of slowly spilling out into Lake Volgoma, and there's like a kind of odd dark cast to the water that's coming out as well, which you can see kind of staining the waters of the small bay. You can see the ruins more kind of clearly now, and you can hear in the distance. What you hear is like from lots of different directions. You can hear an oddly sort of dulled, distant wailing noise. Maybe it's the wind. But also from somewhere further inland from roughly where you are now, you can hear something else. It sounds a little bit like the wailing, but sort of more wind-like, and like with a slight odd air of melody to it that you can't quite make out. As the boats touch the dusty rocks of the Yeffron Isle shoreline, the Zareks gesture for you to get out. They seem quite keen on that happening.
Yeah, get out, go ashore, draw sword on the way.
As I pass one of the Zarek oarsmen, I will whisper, "May we meet again."
They don't speak Cambrian, but they get the sentiment, and they kind of nod and pat you on the back for good luck.
How long did they say they were going to sort of stay within the reach of the shoreline?
I will double check.
Was it like 12 hours or?
I think it was 24 hours, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, they will wait offshore here for 24 hours, and then the next 3 days after that, they will return at noon and stay for an hour.
Cool.
But they basically, the way that Elder Maram described those last 3 days was like, he seemed to kind of be the impression, if you're not done on Yeffron Isle in 24 hours, you're not coming back.
Sure.
So, yeah.
What time is it now? I guess late morning.
Yeah, let's say it is about noon. Okay. And that way that's nice and easy, right? As soon as each of you step off the boats onto the shoreline, you feel something. You're not sure what, like a vague, like someone stepping on your grave, just a vague unease. Maybe the hairs on your arms and the backs of your neck tingle a little bit. Something feels wrong here, as if everything else wasn't enough to convince you of that.
I'll sort of gather the others close and kind of speaking quietly say, let's remember what Josephia said. There are ghosts here. They kill by touch. We need to find the ziggurat, find a way into the ziggurat, perhaps not the direct route, but some alternative, and try to meet the high priest. Whatever any of that means.
Yeah, I think we should try to move, obviously carefully, but as quickly as we can. We don't want to be here long.
I say we follow this river up into the hills to see if we can get a view of the rest of the island, see if we can see a ziggurat.
Well, this is just awful, isn't it?
I wasn't expecting a picnic.
I mean, we've landed. Nothing seems too bad so far. Sounds like we're already doing better than Josephia. So, I mean, we got to take it.
Yep.
Okay. Let's get some altitude, see if we can get the lay of the land.
Yeah, let's move.
Okay. Well, then, you start moving along the river through these ruins. It seems that there was once a city here. And not just any city either. It seemed quite magnificent in its layout. There are a lot of what used to be very tall buildings here, or very large buildings. And they're all tumbled down after this time. But they're not. They seem better preserved than most ruins you've been to in Davokar. Just they seem in fact, you know what? Let's let's have everyone roll cunning to maybe try and figure something out. Nice. Good from Steo. Yeah.
I
good from
rolled a
Astro.
20.
Okay.
I rolled a 1.
Well, well then I will give Ascarai, Steo, and Elindra. You will immediately notice that nothing seems to be growing here. Most of the other islands you've gone past have been covered in vegetation, you know, or even the more barren ones, there's something, you know, there's mosses, there's hardy trees and bushes. Here, there is nothing. Nothing is growing here, and that means there's nothing to tear apart the roots and foundations of these buildings. Elindra, something also occurs to you. You haven't felt a lick of wind since passing through the veil that obscures this place, and the rain also stopped as soon as you did so. There seems to be no rain or wind here. No rain or wind or vegetation means that things can stay standing for an awful long time.
Yeah. No plants. No wind, no rain, no weather. No. I think this might be the most cursed place that I've ever been.
Yep. Probably me too.
Matt, how much does this remind me of Alberator after the Blight?
I mean, they're both clearly corrupted and both kind of devastated wastelands, or have that feel of it. Not necessarily, though. Like, things in Alberator, that like the haunted wasteland of Alberator is more kind of like overtly corrupted, or at least was when you were leaving, and is presumably even more so now. This feels more barren than twisted. But it's still, there's certainly still enough vague things to remind you. Alberator certainly doesn't have any kind of like no wind or rain or vegetation-ness to it. So, yeah.
How does it mentally compare to the prison?
Very different.
Okay.
The prison felt full even though there was no one there. This feels incredibly empty. You feel like you're the first people to set foot on this place in centuries, even though you know you're not. No, the prison felt uncomfortably the other way, in that even when you were alone in it, you did not feel alone.
Matt, is that a reference to our amazing spin-off series, Feathers of Stone?
It is. Go check it out, folks.
So what we've been told about this place is that there was this, in the olden times, this warrior queen, right? Yasmiel.
Yeah.
Who had tried to attack Karvosti and then was banished to the dead here, which quite excitingly means that the little of the history that we know about this place, I mean, Karvosti is full of witches, right? So this place is quite likely literally cursed. Like,
yeah, quite
consciously and deliberately cursed.
Yeah, absolutely possible. Like, as with all these things, these are all folk tales told over generations. So you're not sure how true that's going to be. But again, also, it obviously in the case of Elindra, though, as well, it's like Elindra's got relatively little experience in the forest. So for all she's concerned, it's probably like, yeah, that's probably what happened.
Yeah, it's like it's nice to have a rationale behind things being cursed.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Makes a change.
So, yeah, as you're trudging along, DeGesto is kind of going with you. You could see him. He's got his fire tube out and he's kind of like biting off a length of cord and affixing it into the small hole for it on the top, sort of getting himself ready should awful things come lurching out of the mist at you all. What kind of speed are we going at? Because obviously I said it's only looks to be a kilometer or so to the hills, and you could obviously make that in like, you know, what's that, 15 minutes walk as the crow flies. But that's a like confident stride, right? Are we doing that, or are we being a bit more cautious?
I'm for cautious. I'd like to go quietly. Certainly not being a sightseer, but quietly and determinedly, checking footing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Fair
Like
enough.
scouting ahead if it looks like we're about to head somewhere where we don't have kind of sight lines and things, but yeah,
Mhm.
like as quickly as we can under those circumstances. But
So maybe I'm going to say that's like maybe at half of top speed, right? You're not being completely cautious, but neither are you, going for it. Okay.
sure.
Could everyone give me a vigilant roll? And I'm going to put 2 penalties on it. One is a -2 and the other is a -4. And put up one hand if you get the -2 and both hands if you get the -4. Shocker from Ascarai there.
As in roll 1 dice and see if it works against both of those. Okay.
That's the one.
Linda rolled a 20. Revelia. I rolled for Revelia. She got a 1.
Sure. Okay. All right
Sweet.
then. So both Ascarai and Revelia get both of them. Steo gets 1. Let's say that Ascarai. I'm not going to bother with Revelia noticing things, but Ascarai, one thing you notice as you're walking through these ruins is that you see repeated sort of patterns and motifs on a lot of the buildings. One, and this kind of for a brief moment reminds you of both Thistlehold and the Tomb of Dying Dreams, is that there is a lot of toad and toad-like iconography in places. You see a lot of small statues of a swollen toad-like being on kind of like, on like old walls and like little pillars at intersections of streets with that being on like little plinths in the center of the crossroads and stuff like that. You also see one particular symbol etched into a lot of the places, including alongside many of these little statues and carvings of toads. It looks just to like, I'd obviously Ascarai won't understand necessarily what an ankh is, but we do. It looks like an ankh with the cross part of it being quite angular, and what on an ankh is like a loop being more like a diamond. But yeah, it is a cross of some kind, and it seems to be in many different places.
Is it a symbol Ascarai recognizes at all from anywhere else?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
It looks very Symbaric. It doesn't, because a lot of Symbaric stuff that's on places is often very kind of like stylized and simplistic pictographs or symbols that they seem to use for like labeling things or like easy communication in a way. And then when they actually write, that's like a nightmare cluster of different directional like arrows and slashes, which you have. And Tom, has started to study it, but like that stuff is Order Magica, Lawmaster Scholar nightmare business for as far as you're concerned. The symbology, the cross looks very,
it's recognizable
as like a kind of Symbaric style of like pictography. Yeah,
I think Ascarai would definitely point this out to Anton and be like, that seems to be cropping up all over the place. Do you have any idea what it means or what it is?
You know what? I'll let him roll for it because it's not like a full translation of it. But who's got his sheet? Who wants to do the rolling for Anton tonight? Has anyone got it at hand?
I'll do it. Let me just open it up.
But yeah, if you could roll cunning with a -3, and while you're doing that, yes, Chris.
So this frog that I might have some prior knowledge of, does this resemble the frog relief in the Tomb of Dying Dreams?
I mean, the frog relief in the Tomb of Dying Dreams was on the end of a spear, so there is, but in all other ways, yes, it does look similar, and both of those also look similar to the toad statue that's in the in Toad Square in Thistlehold. Yeah, like a large, overgrown, bulbous, monstrous toad. And clearly, obviously, like in Symbaric times, you'd imagine these things would be real because Hurrian Low Apac seems very proud of having killed one, to have it on the wall of his tomb.
That's the same toad that my spear killed, and that's in Thistlehold.
What an amazing backstory.
Shut up.
You haven't mentioned this before.
Shut up. I will not pay the wages of my own demise. Maybe it's a civilization or something.
An important piece of wildlife, a god. I don't even know how we distinguish between those two things.
Well, let me put it this way. If it is the same creature that was referenced to where this spear came from, and if there's any of them left, they're pretty hard to put down. Legendarily hard to put down, one might say.
I'm very grateful we have your spear, yeah. Clearly a weapon capable of dealing
I
with
want
them.
to point out that we have had 3 separate Ordo Magica people look at this, and all of them have told me it is a stick of bronze. It's not going to be any more help than I can get out of it.
Maybe bronze is the weakness of these toad creatures, and your spear is just the weapon. If there's the weapon the king would choose to kill the toads with, then who are we to argue?
I hate to disappoint anyone, though, but if we meet a toad creature, I think actually attacking it is probably the last resort.
I think running from it might be the first resort.
I don't want to fight anything here.
Not sure we can.
John, how did Anton do in that roll?
He rolled 14 over 8, which was his target. So
never mind. Carry on then, people. You're going to say something, so.
Well, I can't remember what I was going to say. Something about spearing toads. Oh, I was going to say, I think it's more. I do agree. We shouldn't go looking for a fight, but I have a feeling we are probably not going to have much choice at some point here.
And as you know, as you say that, I'm going to have the result of the lesser vigilant roll happen. In that you're kind of obviously gathered together talking. Ascarai, Steo, and Revelia. I don't know what Steo and Ascarai's reactions are, but Revelia definitely takes a step backwards with a start. You're kind of at a crossroads at this point. You've heard this kind of keening noise in various places around you throughout this, and that odd sort of more whistling wind-like, slightly melodic noise is kind of coming closer as you're walking along the northern shore of the river. You're at a crossroads. As it goes off to the north, sort of about maybe 30 feet away, through the mist moves a dark, shadowy figure, sort of humanoid, but loose and fraying around the edges, of kind of ghost-like dark wraith kind of flittering through the street. As it does so, one of those sort of wailing, keening noises basically kind of Dopplers as it moves between buildings. It doesn't seem to have noticed you. And then it is gone within, 10 seconds or so. Unless Ascarai or Steo wanted to do anything to aggravate it.
I think pull people to a position that they're less in view of it, maybe the immediate reaction. Around a corner or behind a rock or whatever's nearby.
DeGesto, with about 3 extra fuses tucked in between his teeth, says, "Did anyone else see that?"
That must be the ghost. Or one of the ghosts.
I have a suspicion that no matter how fiery the tube or how true the arrow, It's not going to help too much. Let's try and avoid them.
And run if we have the chance. I think we should try and get out of here.
Yeah,
quickly
let's go
now.
quickly, quietly.
I don't like this. He starts trudging on, as do the rest of you, I believe.
Is the whistling noise mostly still kind of if like ahead across the crossroads?
Yeah, it's kind of coming from a point. It's definitely coming from a point between you and the hills, and you don't think it's too far away from where you are now.
Okay.
Skirt around it.
Definitely add time to your journey to do so. I mean, and also you're not even sure that you can competently do that without like being a bit closer and knowing roughly where it is. But yeah,
I think we'll stick to the road. It seems like the closest thing to a sense of direction that we have right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't trust this fog.
So as you are kind of striding forwards, that noise is definitely that whistling noise is definitely much closer to you now. And I would like John, if you could make another cunning roll for Anton, please. And also, who would we say is kind of up front sort of scouting? I mean, obviously Ascarai would be a good one.
Probably, yeah.
Should I have at least one other person out of Alindra and Steo?
Sure.
I think Alindra took point a lot in Symbaroum, so Steo will kind of go.
Steo
forward.
tends to take rear guard, I think.
Okay.
So, at least usually, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, he likes to be down the pack. So if Alindra's in, I think Alindra's just mathematically better at being frontline anyway.
I suspect that Alindra would be faster at running away from anything that we run into up front.
Sure.
So.
Well then, if both of you could make a vigilant roll at -1, please. How did Antom's cunning roll go, Aaron? No,
He didn't catastrophically fail, but he's still got no idea.
Sure.
Yeah, fail the vigilant.
Sorry, what do you say, Sam?
Also failed the vigilant.
Okay, never mind. In that case, you both emerge into a space open in the middle of the ruined city. You can see ahead of you a great toad monument of withered, red speckled black granite. And around that, at a distance of maybe 20 feet or so, dance and whirl what look like hundreds of wraiths. They do not seem in any way to be noticing you, and they seem to be hypnotized by the noise that is coming from within that great kind of dancing whirl near the Toad Monument itself. Now that you are here, it is very apparent that that noise, that kind of more whistling, odd, melodic wind-like noise, it actually sounds like a voice. Like odd, strange singing.
Are the rates the same as what we saw before?
Yes.
Okay.
But they seem, as I say, kind of caught in some kind of like reverie. And they certainly are not paying any attention to you.
So I guess as soon as Elijah does notice this, is going to kind of stop dead in her tracks, but like quite obviously far closer to this than is sensible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you want to, everyone who I just asked to make a roll, can you make the same roll with a +2 on it, please? So cunning +2 or vigilant +1.
Yep.
That's a pass.
That's a pass from Anton.
Okay. Anton, who's probably kind of stood maybe near Steo, is kind of like stood there quite still with his eyes closed and his ear cocked. I think that's Elvish. I can't understand the words. They're unclear with the tone and the. I'm fairly sure that is a song being sung in Elvish. At the same time that Anton says this, Askarai and Elindra being at the front, you notice that the ground underneath is like, it's pebbles and scattered bits of stone, but also there's a lot of dust here, and it's a lot of dust that, like, if you look behind you, your footprints are very, very visible as having gone through here. There are quite a lot of footprints from shoes and boots very clearly visible on the dry and dusty ground around here. And 2 sets of them split off from the group and go through that circle of wraiths.
So
I'll go
lots
one
of-
further, actually. Askarai, do you want to roll cunning at, let's say, just a cunning? Just cunning is fine.
Okay. I made it. I rolled an 8.
These are Ambrian made shoes and boots.
They look quite like relatively. They look like ours. They're not like 100 years old or something.
No. Well, it's difficult to tell with the dust here because you don't know. Like, maybe it just stays undisturbed for years and years and years. They look for what it's worth. They look fairly comparable to your tracks, as in you'd guess sometime recently. But again, given this place, who knows?
Okay, I think Askrai and would probably like be whispering to them like, let's back off and like regroup.
Sure.
And as we're doing so, I would say like that these tracks they look fresh, and they're just walking straight through this place, through that whole mess, whatever that is.
Like, it's worth noting the wraiths, like, there's loads of them, and they're all circling in this big kind of like trance-like almost dance. They're not making any wailing noises as they're doing so. I mean, they're not dense, they're not like back to back. Someone being pretty careful could probably dodge them and try and get through to the center.
Okay. So I was saying that maybe there's something at the center of that we need or want. I don't understand why you'd ever go in there voluntarily instead of just skirting around.
Enchantment.
Maybe they had reason to believe that there was information or something beneficial. We don't have that. We don't have that information, and I am not curious.
Or overconfidence, perhaps.
I mean, I'm curious, but I'm not curious enough.
No, let's skirt around this and get more altitude. I want to know why I want to go in there, and no one's answered that yet.
Yep. Agreed.
Okay. You can skirt around this fairly easily. Like this kind of opening in the center of the city, like a plaza, like does open up onto the riverside, and you could just stick to near the river and just carry on going up river and towards the hills. So I'm assuming that's what we're doing.
Sure. Is there enough space between the plaza and the river that we're not going to feel sort of pinned in as we squeeze past?
There's probably a good 30 feet or so.
Okay.
If where the monument and the wraiths are. Yeah.
Within the constraints of the situation we're in, if that seems safe, we'll do that.
I mean, it's up to you whether that sounds safe. As soon as you start kind of skirting around and moving a bit closer to that circle of wraiths, nothing happens. Like, none of them split off or notice you or anything like that. You were closer to them when you arrived in the plaza. So, okay. Yeah, they don't seem to notice you at all.
How easy do I think it might be to try and scale one of the nearby buildings at least part of the way? Get some elevation in.
to try and look in to see what's at the monument.
Yeah.
It seems possible. There's plenty, like I said, there's plenty of big buildings, and I stand by it. Damn it. Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, like climbing here, while there's no vines to help you, like it's entirely possible that some of these buildings are fully intact internally. You just have to pick one and actually go into it and spend the time to, hopefully go in there safely and get to the roof. Or get to a floor level where you can look through one of the windows. Gaps where windows once were. I don't know. Are they still windows if they don't have that? Who knows? I don't know that answer. Yes, they are.
We could try and get a higher look. If there's something mesmerizing the ghosts, it might be useful for us later on. It could be an ally who knows what they're doing.
Are the doors locked? Are there doors at all, Matt?
Some of them still have doors that are on their hinges. Yeah, some of them don't. But it depends. Like, there are multiple buildings from which you think you could do this. I will literally just roll how many buildings there are around the plaza that, even without investigation, you can tell are a possibility. That's not what I wanted to roll. Because I need to determine a plus X value to that. So instead, we'll go with, you can see 6. Just from looking, you can see 6 buildings where, if they have internally a way to go upstairs, you will certainly be able to get advantage, whether it's from a window or if there's access to a roof.
I will pick one about 20 foot behind us and point to that one and go, that's good.
So the one like maybe furthest towards the shore from where you are, just in case something kicks off. Sure, I get that. That's seems sensible. Okay. Well then, you all walk over as a group to that. I'm assuming we're going together.
Yeah.
Is that a fair assumption?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As you get closer to it, let's have a little bit of a roll to see what it might be. Okay, yeah. It's a kind of tall, sort of blocky building. Roughly kind of like rectangular. It has, you don't know about roof access, but it certainly has like maybe like 3 floors on it. And a large door which has old desiccated double wooden door that's sort of like partly hanging up. One's partly hanging off the hinge and the other's just open, so it does have open access. Can everyone give me a cunning roll?
Nope.
Yeah. Steers, yes.
Aaron failed, but Anton passed.
Okay.
If Anton is also in the running.
Yeah, Elindra failed, but Revelia passed.
Well, we don't have to rely on the NPCs here anyway, because Steo passed. Steo, all of the upper floor windows have bars on them. Carved stone bars.
Why would you put bars on the higher stories of a window? What magic were they thinking of?
Prison?
It's up to you, Arindar. What goes through your body when you hear that?
Come on, let's all get in. Elindra, Revelia, you stay with me on the first floor, on the ground floor, to Gesto as well. All you light ones, get some altitude.
Okay. You cautiously walk as a group into it, and the interior is a relatively large chamber. There is kind of the wreckage of slowly decaying furniture all around. The place is awash with kind of like dusty, rocky debris. And there are a pair of what look like intact stone steps leading up at the end of the chamber.
You are.
So I'm
Oh.
guessing the people who are going up, you said the lighter ones. In my head, that's Arendar, Askarai, Malamai, and Anton.
Yeah.
Sounds right. Yeah.
So Alindra, Degesto, Revelia, and Steo are staying below. Sounds perfectly reasonable.
What in the we're in the interior at this point.
Mhm.
Is there anything in here? Like what?
Just dust and debris for the most part.
Nothing like recognizable as
Not really.
furniture. Or, okay.
Well, certainly a lot of it used to be furniture, like tables and chairs and the like. But you can't without properly having a look. It would be difficult to tell exactly what.
Try not to touch anything you don't have to. Just out of an abundance of caution.
Sure. I'm just going to roll something here.
Don't like that.
Oh, why not? Why not? And then another something.
For the record, splitting the party for content is one of my best plays.
Okay. Yeah. Aaron, Askarai, accompanied by Malamai and Anton, you kind of step slowly up the stairs. And what is revealed in front of you is essentially a long corridor that runs what looks to be the length of the building. And on either side of it, all the way along, are what are unmistakably, along with the windows you viewed from outside, cells. They all have the remains of like a strong, sturdy door on them. Not all of them are still strong and sturdy. A couple of them are open. A couple of them are hanging off their hinges. But it's unmistakably this was a prison or a jail of some kind. Hopefully.
Nice to pick the most cursed building, the most cursed city on the most cursed island in the entire world.
This corridor is very dark. Very little light is coming in from the windows in the cells because most of the doors are relatively shut.
Do we have a sense of which, like, are there any? Can we figure out which doors are facing the way that we want to face, like the window?
Yeah, easily. Yeah, it's the left-hand side of the corridor. In case you.
Okay. I guess go up to the first door that doesn't look like it's still strong and sturdy and is passable, and try and like take a look to see if there's anything inside.
Yeah, sure. You go up to the first one, which is kind of half hanging off its hinges, and kind of prod it a bit to open up. Inside is a pretty small, very dusty cell where you feel like a lot of rock dust and small particles have kind of come through the barred windows and sort of just covered the floor in like almost a little ramp leading up to the window. It feels oddly dark and close in here, despite that window facing out on the kind of like hazy gloom of afternoon on Yefferon Isle. Yeah, there's nothing of note in the actual room.
Seems like as good a room as any, Aaron. I don't know what you're thinking, but this would come up here.
Assuming we're stepping up and taking a look out of that window.
Yes.
Okay. Below, Elindra and Steer, are you doing anything while you're down there? Like, Degesto is definitely kind of like looking around to see about just having a poke around for stuff.
Securing the perimeter, whatever that means in this room. I guess
I'm guarding with my ears. If anything happens to that song, any change, if it stops.
So what I'm hearing is that neither of you are rummaging. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not feeling particularly treasure hunty in this exact moment.
Sure, absolutely. Well, in that case, let's go back upstairs. Yeah, what you can see out of the window at this higher vantage point, You can see partly over the top of those hundreds of wraiths whirling around the statue. And at the base of the statue, hands resting on the stone, is an extremely tall elf who looks to be somewhat emaciated and dressed in a simple knee-length off-white tunic. She's definitely the individual singing.
Does she look properly alive or wraithy?
She definitely doesn't look wraithy. From what you can tell, she's very pale, but lots of elves you've met have been very pale. She's very tall indeed. The closest you've seen a wraith be an elf be this tall was the guardian at the doors of the Hall of 1,000 Tears. I mean, you've had fair amounts of sightings and interactions with elves, especially Ascarai has probably passed them by in the forest more than a few times. They seem quite wildly different in their heights. You've met some elves who are like shorter than humans, and you've met some elves who are a lot taller than humans. So
I did not expect to find elves here. No.
Do you think she's causing them or trying to quell them?
I mean, she's definitely singing. I don't know if the singing is what's drawing them, and if it is, for what purpose. It isn't. I feel like that's far beyond my ability to understand. Some kind of magic for sure.
Anton says, if these wraiths have been caught here by some kind of corruption, from all our encounters with elves, it would stand to reason that she is trying to contain or quell them somehow.
She looks in kind of a bad way, but if she is keeping them here, we may not have that much longer before she cannot continue.
Why did Ambrians talk to her, though? Or go in there? Why did they want to? It must have been to talk to her. I can't think of any other reason. And there are no Ambrian bodies down there. You can see that. In case you were wondering, you can see now there are no like Ambrian bodies or anything like that within the circle of wraiths.
Haven't we been told something about seeking someone out? We thought it was a metaphor or something.
The high priest is what? Isn't that what Yosephia said?
Maybe that's her?
Maybe.
I don't even understand how she could talk to you, because surely she would have to stop singing, and then who knows what would happen.
Perhaps they were desperate.
I suppose we should tell the others.
If she's part of the I'm Pact, I wonder if Steo could try to communicate with her from out here? I'm not sure how that works.
Seems a lot better than walking in there, if it's possible.
I think I could probably manage it, though, if we had to.
Better you than me. Let's
Right.
go up there.
Okay, I take it we're leaving the cell and heading back downstairs. Okay. You leave the cell without incident. You walk back downstairs and relay this extra information to Alindra and Steo, who I'm sure have their own opinions.
So on the one hand, she might be this high priest we're looking for. On the other hand, she might not. We don't know.
It
We don't have
seems-
any reason to believe that she could be friendly, and interrupting the song could be catastrophic.
It seems
We
to me
have-
unlikely that a barbarian queen would have a an elf as a high priest.
They're barbarians, aren't they?
The people of this isle were supposedly barbarians, yes.
We were also told to seek out information in or under the ziggurat. So unless the information in or under the ziggurat says, go and speak to the high elf singing at the statue, we have no evidence that she's what we're looking for.
I think the other thing is, from what we know of elves, are they helping people to find this information that leads to Symbar? Feels like they do the opposite if they have the chance.
It's the default assumption that is whatever an elf's motivations are, they're not friendly, right? We have met some arguably maybe exceptions to that rule. But
I'd say default might be cruel, but safest is probably a better way to put it.
yeah, let's not bother the elf unless we have to, I think is like
I can
good-
get a message to her safely, but I can't do it while I'm awake. And I'm not sleeping here.
I think we should
Not like I'm objecting to sleeping here. I'm just letting you know it's going to be practically impossible because I'm terrified.
does anybody want to go and introduce themselves to the elf?
I don't think we have enough of a reason to do so at the moment.
Then I think we need-
Also, unless ziggurat is the Symbaric word for frog, I think we should consider we could continue searching before we attempt to piss off any wraiths.
yeah,
It's-
and also we were giving this information by an Ambrian, so
It's worth noting, Chris, just to slightly that you can send dreams to anyone who also has an iron ring. You don't know if this elf has an iron ring.
Yeah. But interestingly, I can send it to anyone who has an iron ring who I know exists. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
worth
yeah.
a punt.
Sure. Yes. Yeah. I will say that if you do that, you don't know if you succeeded or not.
That's fine. I mean, in
So,
fairness, I
that's
haven't
free
yet
information.
already.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like we're kind of coming to the conclusion. No one seems particularly keen on trying to make through this circle of wraiths. So we pass by the elf, the circle of wraiths, and the monuments, and traverse along the river and further towards the hills. Is that right?
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. As you kind of agree on this, Anton nods and says, perhaps it is for the best not to delay. I feel this place is doing something strange. Indeed, this place is doing something strange. Can everyone gain 1 temporary corruption, please?
May I object?
All you want.
The ring prevents environmental corruption.
Ooh, it does, doesn't it? Yeah, everyone but Steo then. Yeah, you have to voluntarily allow corruption through, and if you do, it's worse. Right? And that's for when you're using like
Yeah, I think there's D4
mystical
damage with
powers,
that kind of ill behavior.
yeah.
Can
regard-
we? How much of a sense do we get that this is happening? That there's some corruption
I
happening?
mean,
to
at the
us?
moment, it's 1 temporary corruption, so you just feel. Certainly, those of you who don't use mystical powers just feel off. Anton looks specifically worried.
But I'm going to assume that Elindra knows what's happening.
You could have a fair guess, yeah.
Yeah, she knows what this feels like, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like as part of your training in like, you know, Templar training, you're probably exposed to quite a lot of corruption because that's what you're meant to fight, right?
Yeah,
so
probably. But like also, she quite routinely kicks off things that generate corruption in her. So,
oh yeah, of course, your Revenant blade causes corruption, doesn't it?
yeah, and the witch sight.
Yeah. Oh yeah, then you know exactly what's happening. Yeah. Okay. You traverse the square and start walking along the riverside on a long street. Before you have gone too far, maybe another kind of 100 meters or so, something happens. Who wants to make a roll for me?
Okay.
Okay, I need
This will be
a D10 roll, please.
sure. This will be fine. A roll of 1.
Okay.
That's the best number.
You sort of have a wave of unsettled nausea for a moment, and then it passes. That's it.
I kind of look around at the others. Did you feel that?
Everyone will have, yeah.
Yep.
We keep moving, right?
I think we move faster. I don't think
Yes.
there are any attempts at. We have to be cautious, but I think we need to move quickly.
The Wraiths don't seem to have been bothered by us so far, so hopefully we're not going to run across one that's suddenly going to like start chasing. So I think speed may be more important than stealth.
Yeah, absolutely. So you carry on moving through the city. You feel like you kind of the river at one point kind of splits off and kind of runs back on itself in a little kind of like inlet that kind of comes into the city a little ways. But once you reach that, you kind of turn again to the south and start walking along the flat along the riverside again. As you're coming to an area where you think you're maybe, perhaps because of the distraction, you're maybe about halfway towards the hills at this stage. But you can see ahead of you like a clearer area between the hills and the city where the ruins kind of come to an end. And you're kind of nearing roughly that point where you feel like you're leaving the city. Can I get from everyone, please, a vigilant roll at a, oh god, let's say a -4.
Made it.
Steo and Askar made it. How about Arendar?
I rolled a 1,
Okay.
which
many
is, by
ones
the way,
being rolled.
the only number that would have passed for me.
Fair enough. So you know what this is like? I described that little like inlet off where it seems there was a lot of like maybe dockside stuff built. You come off that and travel to the south, and when you meet the river again, the three of you notice something on the other side of the river, partly submerged in the slowly wallowing water of it is glinting. So there's something over there, metal or glass or something. Everything else has been dull dust, stone, and mist. But there is definitely something glinting on the other side of this river. The other side, which is at this point, I would say, because the river is narrower here, and actually exactly where you are on this map, you know what? It's the narrowest point you've seen. I'm going to say that it is about maybe only 4 meters or so to the other shore, 4 or 5 meters.
I'll kind of roll the party to a stop and go and examine the water at the river, maybe probe it with the staff to kind of get an idea of the depth, or the spear, not the staff.
Sure. I think on the edge, on the dock side, it's a bit more because it's the city edge of the river. Let me just look at the map quickly again. No, you know what? I'd say that all the docks and stuff have basically been stopped at this point, and now it's just like a river passing through the city, and the shore is more pebble-like, so you can definitely take a few steps into the water and kind of dunk it down. You get the impression that at the very center of this, the river is slightly deeper than a person, but it drops quite sharply, like a an old-fashioned canal would. But it's certainly not far to swim. You also saw some bridges crossing the river back by where the elf was.
From this close, can we see any more of what this thing is? Is it on the other side, or is it kind of in the edge of the river?
It's partly, it's from near the edge of the river. You can see something lying partly in the river and partly out of it, but a lot of it is obscured by like a fairly large dusty rock that's sort of in the way. But you know what? Give me a vigilant roll at let's make this hard. -8. And if you make that vigilant roll at -8, Askarai, you can definitely recognize exactly what it is.
Not quite. Rolled a 10 out of 16, but needed an 8.
Okay.
Well, crestfallen, I will sludge my way back onto dry land and maybe go. There's definitely something over there, but unless there's a fording point further up or we suddenly find ourselves with some free time, I think it's something for later.
Malamai has put his bow down and rested it on one side and says, "I'm just wearing leathers. I can be over there in 20 seconds. I could do it."
How cursed does the water look?
No more cursed than anything else around here. It's like it's full of dust and fragments of stone, but it doesn't look nice.
Okay, but you said when we arrived that it was like notably darker than the water of the lake. Does that look unnatural in some way, or is it just grimy?
You've asked me that question now, Stephen. So why doesn't Elindra make a cunning roll?
Sure. Oh, I passed.
Most of the dust, as you're getting closer to the hills, the dust is getting darker and darker.
Okay.
And now that you're closer to the hills, you can see that the top of them look quite kind of dark in color, as if it's a slightly different rock or stone up there.
Okay. Are we getting sort of volcanic vibes from the landscape?
The hills, they're not volcanic. Yeah, okay. There's nothing clearly active about them, but it feels like maybe the dust and the particles coming down from the hills in the river give it a kind of darker tone as it flowed out into the lake. That would seem a good guess.
That's more reassuring than just
Malamai is like up to his shins now. He's raring to go.
How is it cold at the moment? Is it normal? Is it?
It's just, I mean, it's cold because it's spring river water.
Nothing crazy.
He doesn't seem alarmed by the temperature of it for sure.
I said, wait a moment, and I'll throw him the end of the knotted rope to tie around himself.
He gives you a quick smile and knots it around himself, and then just goes for it. And as he said, he's across the other side in less than 20 seconds. He doesn't have to swim for that long in it, and he's tall and rangy, and he has a powerful swimming stroke. He crosses to the other side. I think, how long are the ropes? Are they like 12 meters or something like that? That rings a bell.
They're pretty hefty.
Like
yeah, it's still on him anyway. He kind of comes to the other side and like shakes his head and sort of rubs his eyes he seems to have maybe like a bit of dust, like there's particles in the water, and he kind of like blinks a bit and looks down. It's a body. It's wearing some studded armor. That's what the metal was.
Ambrian?
I don't think so. Looks to be maybe barbarian clothing. But they haven't been here all this time. They're all dried out, but I'd say, I don't know. They've been here years, but I don't think they're from whatever caused all this. There's a knapsack here.
Search it.
He nods and kind of kneels down, and as he does so, a wave of unsettled nausea passes over all of you again, and emerging from the mist, both on Malamai's side of the river and on your side of the river, sliding out, gliding over the dusty ground, are a number of flickering, shadowy forms, wraiths that do not seem to be captivated by the elf song and are now moving towards all of you with just kind of like emotionless movement. They have no faces. All you can see are like their humanoid flickering forms. From all of them starts to come deep inside these shadowy bodies, starts to come a low keening wailing noise that is now increasing in volume. They are coming from basically they have you surrounded, and there are an equal number of them over on Malamai's side as there are here. And if you want a precise number, I will tell you there are 4 on Malamai's side and 4 on your side. They're coming from all directions. It seems unlikely that you can just escape unless you're really not bothered about being grabbed while you do so.
Actually, really quite bothered about that.
Yeah.
So,
how fast is the river flowing?
Not very fast at all. Malamai has already seen the race, and you see him stand up with like holding the knapsack, and he has it like over his shoulder, and he seems about to dive back into the river to cross back over to your side.
drop it, Malamai.
I don't think. I'm not going to make it clear whether he hears you or not.
Okay.
But he's not dropping it.
Do we have any option other than to jump in the river that seems like we could?
The old holy hand grenade.
I mean, you could fight.
Asra's going to back towards the river, and as he does so, will shoot an arrow at
Seems
one
a
of the
good
wraiths
test,
on
right?
his side.
Yeah. Okay. Basically, once you've done this, you're going to be in combat, right? Not as in they're by you, but like I'm going to give you a free shot, but then we're going into combat rounds. That sort of mean that's reasonable, isn't it? Okay. Give me a shot. Completely flat. They have 0 defense.
Roll a 1.
Rolled a 1. Okay, there we go. Well, I'm guessing that that's plus 1d6 to the damage roll, isn't it? So yeah. Okay, so give me your damage roll, please.
Okay. I'm going to say I haven't hunter's instinct this guy because that feels we're not in combat.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's reasonable because you've only just sort of engaged. How have you done on damage?
That's 9 damage total.
That is 9 damage total. Okay. Well, what happens is essentially as your arrow flies through it, it does feel like it definitely doesn't have the same velocity as it appears through the other side of the wraith, and part of like this wraith's form kind of like tears away, and it's not like it's lost an arm or something. It's more like part of its body like rips out of the back of it and just kind of drifts and evaporates away into the mist of Yepheron. Its keening gains a like higher pitch. You definitely seem to have hurt it, but you also get the sense that your arrow is not doing all it could be doing. You know what I mean? You have fought ghostly things before, right? You fought the Omelkun. And we had a similar situation there, right? Where you felt like you were hurting it, but not maybe particularly commensurate with how much you should have been hurting it. This is all me basically trying to explain reduced damage for spirit form to you, if anyone's curious. But like, yeah, seem reasonable?
Yep. If only we had some kind of way to generate an area that might affect them in a way that causes... Never mind, eh?
Why do we only fight undead when when Mike's not here?
You are allowed to play him. Like,
That's true.
I cast Blessed Shield. Sorry, I just channeling Mike there.
Sure.
He's got better tools for this specific situation.
He does?
Yeah.
He's
Holy
got-
Aura.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah. That one.
That's what we need.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's currently second to last in the initiative. So,
Sure. Which reminds me, I should probably give you the initiative of the Wraiths, right, John?
and for Malamai.
I haven't made stats for Malamai yet. Let's just put him last.
Cool.
But the Wraiths, on the other hand, they're at both quick and vigilant 10.
Cool. I'll
Wraith
pop them
down
in
the
and I'll be
middle.
back in a sec.
Oh no, Chris, no. All right.
That's why I earn the big bucks.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Let's well, it's going to be Askarai first, isn't it? Because it always is. So there we go. I'm going to be a bit of a bastard, Askarai, and say that was your first shot. I think that's reasonable. Don't you?
Sure. I will then take my second shot, but I will use Hunter's Instinct on the one
Yep.
that I shot at before.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. There's just-
Unless you wanted to account for armor, but you don't. You don't get the impression that's a problem here.
Yeah. Okay, that's a 3. Definitely hits. And the damage is 8.
The damage is 8. All right. Again, your arrow pierces through it. Its wails reach a higher pitch, and you see part of it kind of evaporating off into the misty air. And it essentially, the wraith sort of stops moving forwards and starts sort of almost like dropping to the ground into a more kind of like liquidish, smokish form of matter, and that is kind of like retreating, curling oddly, like the motions of starfish and urchins you've seen on like lake shores, like crawling backwards across the ground away from you. Maybe this is how wraiths flee.
Seems like good news.
There are still 3 coming for you on this side, and as I say, 4 over on Malamai's side. That's your second shot, right? Are
Yep.
you using your movement for anything?
I mean, I don't. If I take 2 shots, I don't get movement. But I did say I was backing up
Right.
towards the river before.
Sure. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Elindra, how about you?
Hey, so this will either help or will not, but Elindra is going to activate her Revenant Strike, which gives her 1d4 temporary corruption, which in this case is 4. I'm not yet at my corruption threshold, but we're playing Danger Chicken. So am I within like stepping in to engage distance of one of them? Okay,
yeah.
so
although is your Revenant Strike an action though?
Yes, that's an action, but then
but you've got a long weapon as well, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you're gonna. Do you have to roll for your Revenant Strike, or is it auto?
It's auto, but it's D4 temporary corruption, which I've just taken.
Cool.
So I am gonna step in and on engagement try to get my auto attack on.
Absolutely. Give me a flat attack then, please.
Sure. Wow, that is a fail, and I think I'm going to spend an XP on that
Sure.
because this seems like a bad roll to fail, right?
Could be.
Ah, that is a 1.
That's better. Well, that's an extra D6 on your attack then.
Wow. Okay. So it's just rolling damage, right? It's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So D12 plus D4 plus D4 plus D6.
What's the other D4 for? Is that for Iron Fist or something?
For Iron Fist. So Iron Fist and Revenant Strike.
Mm-hmm.
The dice aren't that great actually, though. It's a 6, 7, 8, 9.
Oof. That isn't all that great. Yeah, you step forward towards it, and your Revenant Strike blade slashes through the air. You feel like there is definitely more resistance than the air. Your blade feels like it's kind of dragging through water a little bit as you pull it through the wraith in front of you. Again, you have a similar reaction. The keening is at a higher pitch, but the wraith certainly doesn't seem to be driven back and is kind of like reaching out for you to try and essentially pour at you with one outstretched hand. Time for Revelia.
Lovely. So she doesn't get any attack or engagement, but she is just going to step into. What do you think? The same one, a different one. Let's say she's going to go for a different one.
Okay.
Like I don't know if flanking is a thing that applies to this stuff or.
Yeah, flanking will apply. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we'll press the numbers advantage then, and she'll step into the same one.
Sure.
Try and
absolutely.
flank. So let's roll an attack. That is just about a hit. She is doing D10 with her sword. That's a 4.
Okay. And does she, because she recently bought Shield Fighter for it, right? Does that do anything in particular?
So her sword was D8, and it's now D10, and she's got more defense as well.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, yeah. Revelia steps into. So that was the same one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So is there more?
Oh yeah. Sorry. That should have been an advantage.
Is that an
It's
extra
been a while
D?
since we've been in combat.
Yeah, I'm rusty.
It was +2 on her attack roll, but anyway, it's an extra D4 to damage, so you can.
Oh, cool. Let's just
that
throw that on then. 2.
Okay.
So, what did we say? Yeah, so 6 in total, I guess, for her.
Yeah. Okay, give me a second. Okay, yeah, the wraith is definitely damaged further, but does not seem to be retreating, and is again reaching out for both of you in an attempt to kind of pour at you with its outstretched shadowy hands. Farron.
Farron, I think, has realized that these guys are very bad news. He's going to hiss and raise his hackles and not go anywhere near them because he can't attack without touching them, and that's a bad idea.
Precious baby.
Because he can't attack without touching them, and that's a very bad idea.
Sure. Just so we know, the mechanics of the game. Well, no, to be fair, you wouldn't know. I've revealed it now, but yeah, that's fine.
Also, he is a precious baby.
Yeah.
Also, he is a precious baby.
Okay, well, what are you doing then, Arendar?
I guess I will step up to one of the 2 remaining advancing figures and try and slash at them.
Absolutely. Well, give me just a flat attack roll then, please.
Okay. That is a success.
Okay. So roll your damage.
That is 8.
8. Okay, yeah, your fencing blade rips through it. Again, a similar sensation like going through water. The drifting wraith matter kind of turning translucent and odd with a hint of like old colors as it moves through the mist. But otherwise, the wraith is undeterred and is moving for you. And you know what? It's the wraith's turn. So we are going to, let me just check their fighting tactics. Yeah, they attack people at random. So okay, so the first attack, well, let's put the first attack as the easy one, is Arendar. You're the only one fighting this wraith. So give me a defense roll, please, at -3.
That is a fail.
Okay. No, go on.
I think I'm going to re-roll that. Yeah, I think I'm going to try and re-roll that. I've got a bad feeling.
Okay.
It's still a fail.
Oh,
Okay,
dear,
let's take it. It's to be. It's fate.
Sure. You are attempting to kind of weave around the wraith. But you know why you get hit, Arendar? Is because you think that the wraith doesn't want to be hit back. So you're moving in like a semi-aggressive way that another fighter would be like, okay, now I have to move here because otherwise this fearsome adventuring duelist will immediately run me through. The wraith doesn't seem to care about that. And instead just drifts as close as it can to you, and one of those outstretched hands kind of brushes into your chest and through it and out the other side, and a coldness washes through you. Your arms and legs temporarily go completely rigid, and when your feeling comes back in them, you feel like you have been running for an hour. You feel like you've spent the entire previous day riding or swimming or fighting, and you've woken up the next morning. The practical application of that mechanically, Arendar, take 4 off your strong.
What?
Take 4 off your strong.
Wow.
How much strong do you have?
I had 10.
Okay. You probably don't want to let it go to 0.
No. No. Do I get it back?
What, now? No.
Maybe. Let's find out.
So, for the very first time, we're experiencing alternative damage. Alternative damage can be healed like any damage.
Okay.
But it is applied to a stat instead of to HP. Yeah.
Don't like that.
Yep.
Cool.
And it typically ignores armor because for obvious reasons. Yeah. So if any of you don't have good strong, I'd say you don't want to get hit. Elindra's like, yeah, fine.
Yeah, Elindra does have good strong and uses it for attacking.
Oh yeah.
as is the case with Revelia.
Yeah, well then. Well, one of you is about to get an attack against you. And that one of you is you, Elindra. So give me a defense roll at -3, please.
How lovely. Okay, I need a 10. I get a 10.
Okay, the thing reaches out for you and you kind of like swiftly, again, you're caught off guard by like, it's just coming for you. It doesn't care if that blade goes through it again. But you managed, unlike Aaron, to like quickly backstep away from it as it kind of drifts that hand-like appendage in front of you. And we've got another 1. And it says they attack people randomly. So I'm just going to roll a die for everyone on this side of the river, which is everyone but Malamai, right? So what's that, a D7? I guess I'm not going to count Farron. I think they'll definitely go for humans over animals. So yeah, I'm just going to roll this. That's right. It's coming right for you. Give me a defense roll at -3, please.
Okay, I need a 13. Rolled exactly 13.
Oh, I mean, you see it coming, right? So you can like pedal back a bit along the shore of the river, but it's definitely engaged with you now. So no more of those handy arrows. For you, the other 4 wraiths are kind of coming across the river behind Malamai. They definitely seem to be traveling slower over the water. So they're not going to arrive. It's going to take a couple of turns for them to get to you. But there we go. Steo. There is one fighting Aaron, one fighting Elindra and Revelia, one fighting Askaray.
And I think I'm going to ignore them all. And I think what I'm going to do is pull on the rope with Malamai on it to try and give him an advantage to
try and
get
bring
back
him
to
over faster.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Why don't you give me a strong roll then, please? And now, you know what? I will modify it. Well, I don't know what his stats are. But I'll give you a +2 on it. Oof. The rope snaps. It doesn't harm his swimming, but that's a shorter rope now. I'll let you have one. I'll let you keep the end that has like Malamai on it, right? So when he returns to shore, one of your ropes is now half length. That's it. There we go.
Great. Good work, Steo.
Happy you didn't join in the fight?
Yep.
Fight might be
efficiency.
over now. Fight might be over now. Anton.
I mean, this is a roll for Anton, so
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Right.
Have you got the rules for Holy Aura there?
Yes.
Okay.
Roll resolute, create an aura. Harmful to abominations, undead. Target suffers 1d8. Okay, so let's roll for resolute. Which is
And
best
also,
stat.
living creatures heal 1d4 points of toughness.
Yes. Okay. Wish me luck.
Mm-hmm.
He did it. 11
Okay,
under
then.
15.
Okay. So here's the interesting thing about the old alternative damage, right? It just says alternative damage heals and can be healed just like ordinary damage. So I'm gonna I read that personally. Disagree with me if you feel I'm wrong. That anything that heals normally will also heal alternative damage.
Yeah,
that's how it reads to me. In which case, let's start with Aaron. Roll a d4.
3.
Okay, regain 3 points of strong. Anton is stood kind of like back to the river, so he loves his back to all those wraiths behind him. Although Malamai is still more in the way than he is, and he's stood still, kind of hands clasped, knuckles whitened around the holy sun of Prios that hangs around his neck. And as he does so, I think you probably all have felt this by this point. Yeah, Wrath of the War at the beginning of the battle for the sinkhole, if nothing else. But waves of heat and light start rolling off Anton as he calls on at least his perception of the living god of Prios to come to your aid. You know what? The mist itself that's shrouding this place kind of like rolls back dramatically with a kind of whoomph noise, and like dust and debris, small debris kind of tumbles over a little bit in the wave of Prios's holy light that rolls off the Theurg. Okay. Shall we have well, you've rolled for this, Aaron. I think you should get the enjoyment of rolling the actual damage. So they're d8s, right? What does it say about range on it? If at all.
Ooh, he doesn't have that written down.
It doesn't really have range on it. I'm going to say, just for the purposes of this, I think the Wraiths in combat are definitely close enough. In my head, the other Wraiths are a bit further away. They're not like engaged, like in the combat now yet, I guess.
The
It would
thing
seem
I'm
crazy
reading
as just
says
anything in sight, but maybe it does.
it does say that this power affects all
Oh.
abominations and undead within sight of the mystic.
All right,
as I'm
okay,
going-
yeah. Okay, then it absolutely does. Okay, so John, give me. I'm going to ask you for 78 rolls, but let's do them slower. So yeah, go ahead, start up.
6, 2,
6, 2. Yep.
2,
Okay.
8,
Yep.
4.
Did you say 4?
Yes.
Yeah.
Another 8.
Another 8.
Another 8.
Oh yeah.
And a 7.
And a 7. Okay.
Nice.
So here's what happens. Oh, and I need to make a roll. Okay. Yeah. So, Elindra, the Wraith fighting you straight up dissipates. Like as soon as the wave of light from Anton comes out. And I don't think it's not like bright light. It's just like everything. It's not like rays of light. It's just like everything becomes brighter for a moment as these waves roll out. And the Wraith just like one moment it's there and the next moment it's just gone. And there are like bits of it drifting off into the air. Arindar, the one facing you sort of twitches and cringes a bit of part of like the shadowy surface of it rolls off, and then it tries to start kind of like sinking and crawling away in the same way the other one did. Are you go? You can get a free attack on it because it's moving away. So if you want, you can get a free attack on it. Yeah, go for it. Defense is flat. Although I think. Are you flanking if they flee while moving away? I don't think so. I think it is just a free attack.
No.
That is a success and 10 damage.
10 damage.
10.
Well then, as it kind of like sinks to sort of move away, you thrust out and like right into the center mass of it, and then slash several times. And on the final slash, parts of it almost come up, like I say, it's almost more liquid as it sinks down, and parts of it splash apart like you were just like battered with a huge, bit of wood into the surface of like a well or a lake or something like that, and it just scatters everywhere and dissipates. You think you destroyed it. The one fighting you, Askarai, kind of cringes and shrieks, but otherwise no visible change. The 4 across the river are still coming across the river, although they all kind of like writhed and twisted for a second as parts of them drifted off. So they've all been hurt by it, but not enough. Pretty good. Well done, Mike.
Knew we kept him around for some reason and then sent him away. And
we can't say that this is the first time, because it was pretty good at the Battle of the Sinkhole as well, because they were abominations, right? So it
in the Tomb of Dying Dreams as well. I think it saved us.
Yeah,
saved us.
It's a really fucking good mystical power. Okay, Degesto, for his part, shall he? Oh, I think he will. He's going to turn around and shout for Malamai to duck under the water, and he's going to aim his fire tube at the ones coming over the water and just pull the trigger. Who wants to make some rolls for Degesto? Someone who isn't John, please. I'm not saying that John. Yeah.
Can I explode him?
Yeah. So, can you give me? Again, I always have to work out how this actually works, because the AoE thing is quite
cumbersome. or funbersome, if you will.
I will and I do. Okay, come on, where is it? Area effect. There we go. Yeah, 1 test is made for each creature in the area. Those who hit suffer full damage. Those who pass the defense suffer half damage. Yeah, and I foolishly gave my cat a large paper bag, and now he is making lots of noises with that. So, could you give me 4 attack rolls, please? What you're looking for are 13s.
Okay. 13s are better. That's a 3, a 4, a 9. What is up with this D20? And an 8.
Lovely. I will check the damage on that. The damage you will be rolling will be... Come on, where are you? Oh, God, I can't even see that. It's because I've got my PDFs on a different screen than I usually do. Okay. I need you to roll a D12 damage for each of them.
Oh, I love numbers. 12.
Okay.
12.
Okay.
3, 8.
Okay. All right then.
RPG Simple Dice is the app. It rolls real good.
Who could have predicted that Ghost's weakness would be like handmade grenades? Yeah.
So in the roar and detonation of flame from Degesto's fire tube, one of the wraiths is just not there after the wave of fire rolls over them. 2 of the others have like kind of drifted down like the other ones did here to try and kind of escape or flee, but they've just kind of gone into the water, and then they're just gone. You can't. They've either traveled or been taken downstream. Another one of them is sort of almost. I describe them as flickering around the edges anyway, but this one is almost kind of like just entirely flicking, but is still sort of like haltingly gliding forwards behind Malamai in the water. But the others are destroyed. Or fled. So that worked. Malamai, for his part, is going to just swim real fast to try and get away from the wraiths. They are on that. I need to sort his stats, really. Okay. Him ducking under the water has certainly slowed him down. Next turn, if he doesn't roll better than a wraith, it will reach him. But it's not quite on him yet. These things don't flee from their compatriots being destroyed. So we will roll back round to the beginning of the thing. Askarai, you are in melee combat.
Okay, I think I'm gonna pull my sword and try and stab this guy.
Absolutely, that's an attack. That's a flat attack, please.
Okay, I will use feint, so I need a 13. I rolled a 13.
Okay,
Right.
Give me that damage roll then, please.
Okay. What is this? So I think it's a D10. 3 damage.
Okay. Your sword slices through the thing, but you get the impression you didn't do a huge amount to it. Like, you don't feel much resistance, and you don't really notice much difference in it after you've done it. You're not sure if it's something you're doing wrong or not, but there
I actually think I rolled very much the wrong dice. I think it's a D8 plus a D4, but I mean, that's kind of a D10, so I had 3 out of 3. It's my fault for rolling the wrong stuff.
John, did you note that now? Does Anton get temporary corruption for casting? I'm not sure.
I was just in the middle of trying to find that out, and
it'll be under his level of Theurg.
So that's my sheet. That won't have anything on it.
No. So if you check, well, let's leave you doing that because it doesn't matter until we get to his turn, really. But Elindra, the only wraith on this shore, is the one fighting Askarai.
Then let's go pile in on that.
Okay, so that's a flank. So gain +2 on your attack roll.
+2 on the attack roll, and this is the free attack on engagement.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, that's a pass. Is that plus damage as well?
Yeah, it'll be +d4 on the damage.
Wow. So that's D12 plus D
4 plus d4.
But D12 plus
Oh.
3D4.
Yeah.
Wow. 3, 6, 9, 10, 11.
11. Okay. It's trying to get away in the same manner as the others, like sinking down and flowing away. Are either you or Askarai going to try to strike it with a free attack as it gets away?
Well, I get my actual attack as well.
Yeah, but this still happen after. I'm subventing the turn order a little bit with the Wraiths fleeing. I feel it's atmospheric. I'm going to give Askarai the first shot at it because you've just swung, right? In my head, that's the rationale. So yeah, just a normal free attack at it, please. Oh, and it's also it's still flanked though, so take a +2
from Askarai, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That makes it. Then I roll the correct damage this time. Way better. 4.
Okay, it is still it's kind of flickering in and out of sort of reality, but still moving away. Alindra, do you want to take a swipe?
Why not?
At a +2.
That's a pass. And we are going to do 11 damage again.
Well, it has 1 health. So, you swing into it and it's just gone. You can barely see any kind of drifting bits of ethereal matter left by the time your swing is even finished. Okay. The Wraiths are all now gone, apart from the one chasing Malamai across the river. Is Revelia going to do anything?
I think she's probably gonna jump into the river.
Right, try and meet where it's definitely the Wraith is at a point where you have to swim. So she can't reach it and hit it, but she could go step into the river and try and meet part way.
She's in chainmail though. This is a stupid idea. Yeah, I think she'll run to the river bank then, and then suddenly remember that swimming in chainmail is just not a thing, and then stop.
Absolutely.
Does she have the other spear on her?
She could throw the spear.
She does. I think she's got sword and shield equipped right now, so I don't know if she's able to change weapons and throw.
I think there is a switching. Drawing weapon is a movement action. So
okay. So she could draw the spear and then throw Steo's spare spear into the river.
Well, hopefully not into the river. But yeah.
Well, I mean, at the race. I have no idea how attacks.
It's exactly the same as a normal attack.
Okay.
Just roll action.
That's a fail. She failed that attack.
So let me think about I said it was only 4 or 5 meters across, right? So I think you got a pretty good chance of it hitting the opposite bank as opposed to the spear goes in the river and vanishes forever. So I'm going to say I'll give you a 1 in 5 that it goes into the river and it's just lost. So let me. Nope. It clatters into the stones on the opposite bank.
Well, we'll have to retrieve it, but it's all right.
But it misses the Wraiths. So is Farron doing anything? Guessing not.
Probably not.
Arindar, how about you?
How far across the river is Malamai?
About halfway.
I'm going to wade into the river to try and cover his retreat.
Sure.
But I'm not going to go any further than about waist deep, I think.
Absolutely. Okay. Okay, it's the Wraith's turn, and we're going to have a roll for Malamai. who stays just ahead of the Wraith as it kind of comes in closer. Steo, I think the Wraith is close enough that you can hit it with a long strike. If you take a couple of steps into the edge of the river, I think you can try and thrust with your spear.
Regretfully, I'll need to use my movement option to get my spear because I was using the rope last turn.
What?
Unless we want to house rule it, but it seems
no.
more
Sure, but you could just use 2 movement actions, right? You can convert your
and then I would be within
action,
long and trigger the long
free
attack.
Yeah.
No, let's do that then. So
okay.
1 movement action to retrieve and activate my spear, and then 1 movement action to close the distance, triggering long.
Yeah, you kind of wade up to your knees in the river, and you can thrust out the full length of your reach against this wraith. Okay, that's just a flat attack, please, Theo.
Let's give it a go. That's actually a fail, I think. Let me double check. Accurate. No, wait. No, accurate 15. Yeah, no, it's a pass.
There we go. Give me a damage roll, please.
It's a pass for 2 reasons, because I have precise as well. 5 damage.
5 damage. You thrust your spear into the heart of, or where the heart would be on the wraith, and it kind of rolls back of nothingness around the point of your spear, and then what is left of it drifts off into the river and into the air and mist around it. Antom's feverish praying dies to a silence. And Malby crawls onto the shore.
And then immediately gets sent back into the river to fetch
the spear on the other side. Well, what he actually does is crawls onto the shore and looks up at you all. He's got a big old grin on his face. He looks very excited and says, "That was invigorating."
You're not right in the head, kid. Go on, what's in the bag? You nearly died for.
He sort of looks in it and kind of unfurls the top of the knapsack, opens it, and kind of reaches in tentatively and goes, "It's got an oil lining. It's dry." He pulls out a kind of like sheaf of scrolls, which kind of unravels slightly and says, "This isn't Ambrian," and holds it up to Antom, who kind of plucks it off him, unfurls it, and says, "Yes, this is Odav. I can read this. Looks a bit. I can read this. I just need some time." And sort of starts looking at it. Malamai scrambles around in the knapsack a bit more and pulls out one more piece of it's kind of some scraps of various like bits of supplies, like a little knife and things like that, some food long desiccated, and then draws out another piece of paper which he unrolls and says, "It's quite faded, but it's a map." And I think we will end the stream there, folks. Thank you so very much for watching. If you have any comments or questions, sling them in the chat and we'll address them after I do my promo stuff. But first of all, thank you for the follow to Zeron120. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Promo stuff down below is a bunch of links to YouTube, links to Twitch. You're watching this on one of those sites, please check us out on the other one. There's also links to our Discord, our Patreon, our social media. Get involved with those if they interest you. We run a number of campaigns and long-running series at the moment. Mondays is usually Vaesen, although it's on a bit of a break at the moment until Monday, the 11th of September. This, of course, is Symbaroum Wednesdays, which will carry on from now until the end of time. Thursdays have recently gone fallow after we wrapped up the Cincinnati Chronicles, but they will return on the 21st of September when Sam is going to be debuting Wicked Ones, which is essentially the Blades in the Dark system, but instead of, creepy gangs in a creepy city, it's essentially Dungeon Keeper, the role-playing game, where you play monsters.
But which Sam?
Which, not this Sam, other Sam, although this Sam is in it. So you'll have double the Sam. Double your pleasure.
That won't get confusing.
Probably not. No. But yeah, other Sam is running that, and yeah, it's Dungeon Keeper the game essentially. So get involved with that. At some point, that's also going to kind of probably alternate, because it is going to be an alternating game every other Wednesday, with the conclusion of the Big Wet, which is Pierre's apocalyptic survival TTRPG thing. We've got some recorded series that are probably going to be coming along in the not so distant future. We do one shots every month, the most recent of which was Hell Night, the next one of which will be sometime in September. We haven't decided when yet, and that will be the third installment of Johnny's Space Age Call of Cthulhu stories. Yeah, and then we've got some others later this year. We were going to run Dune in November to match the release of Dune 2, but film studios don't want to pay the people who work for them, so instead we'll be running that in March alongside the delayed release. So what else is in its place? Well, you tell me, because I've got no fucking idea at the moment. I'm sure I'll run something else before the end of the year, as will some other people. But yeah, that's it anyway. So what I would, before we go on to questions and whatnot, by the way, you know how temporary corruption goes away at the end of a scene? Don't take away the temporary corruption that Yepheron gives you. But you can take away, I think that's what's intended with how it's written. Let me just quickly reread the description of it, but that's definitely the...
So I would take away the 4 I got from the Revenant Strike, but not the 1 from the scene before.
Correct.
Cool.
And similarly, Anton will take the 1 point away for the Holy Aura, but not from King. Yeah, you get the idea.
Bet that magical corruption shield ring's looking pretty tempting now, Ascarai. Fancy joining the Iron Pact, old buddy.
I mean, I thought Ascarai could just wear the Iron Ring and ignore whatever dreams get sent his way and be like, hey, I've got my corruption protection. And
you've got, is it on you or is it back in Thistlehold?
Definitely has it with him, but I don't think he wears it at the moment, because why would he?
Yeah.
Well, you know what they say, heaven helps those who help their elf.
Has anyone got any comments or questions so we can ignore that just happened? Steve, which direction meant instant and terrible death again? Yeah. Symbaroum, innit?
That's the issue. It's all of them.
Yeah. Don't cook food. Singing never goes well in Symbaroum. No, you just come from a singing place. Boats, not goes. Yeah, you just come from a singing place, and now there's another one. Ugh.
It's basically just Macross, the role-playing game. Singing solves or causes all problems.
Yeah.
Which would be hilarious if anyone here was cultured enough to have watched that manga.
Needless. 42. I imagine the singing sounds like Mongolian throat singing. Yeah, sure. I can imagine that. I think it needs to have a kind of like, not to other Mongolian throat singing, but I think saying that it's sort of like unusual or like kind of like different kind of alien to sort of Western ears is a good comparison point for like how elves are kind of like slightly othered and alien to the Ambrians, and a slightly lesser extent to the barbarians. I think let's have that. That's now our canon. Elven singing sounds like Mongolian throat singing, but maybe a more resonant. Like it doesn't sound like it comes from a human. You know, it's like a cross between Mongolian throat singing and whale song.
I imagine there's definitely an amount of, I can't remember what it's called, but like the counter notes. Like one person can produce
overtones.
2 different pitches at once.
Yeah. You don't even need to necessarily be trained to do that. You can just sort of do it. I can do it, but I'm not going to do it because it will be horrible into this mic.
You're already doing it because it is a fundamental component of speech.
You can make it more pronounced, though, which is what it's... So you can hear two tones coming from.
Are we in the educational bit of the stream? This is my favourite.
It's always the educational bit of the stream. You've been listening to all my horrible graphic descriptions of combat. That's educational. Steve, I'm reminded of the feeling you get in Mutant Year Zero when you realize you're stuck in the middle of a radiation hot zone. Yeah, it definitely has that vibe. And we haven't been to many places in Davokar yet where that's the case, but an awful lot of places in Davokar are like, yeah, you take this much temporary corruption every X while you're here. So enjoy that in the future.
The The elf must be in the Iron Pact, because even the elves wouldn't be able to stay here for a long period of time singing without taking enough corruption to get turned to abominations. Facts and logic.
Unless whatever she's doing with the singing is also preventing the corruption. Effectively.
Yes.
Or is the cause of it.
Maybe, yeah.
Just say.
Steve, Malamai's far too keen and is going to stumble onto a crypt trap and get diced. Maybe. John, he's our intern. Yeah.
Low key tempted on purchasing him as a permanent friend, but let me know in the comments on YouTube if people think Theo deserves a friend.
My real intention with this, because I felt like DeGesto's previous hirelings were a little bit rote. A couple of them had a little bit. The last couple had some character traits to them, but I intentionally wanted to make Malamai more like a character, so that, you know, so he's more of a character to have around and play, but also in case he dies, you know, it makes you feel terrible.
Yeah, compared to the other ones,
good shit.
We only learnt their names after they died.
No, you learn the names of the last two. Yeah. You learn the name of the last two before they died, and you learned the name of the one that had died. Basically, the guy who fell down the pit and broke his neck. You learned his name as a second after he died.
Yeah, and the two that died for them, we didn't care.
What's your name, friend? My name's Jorigoy.
Jorigoy Redshirt, sir. 42. Why doesn't Anton go back and help out the elf clear out the race? Well, assuming that's what the elf is doing.
I do feel like we dealt with those Wraiths pretty good with Anton, so you know, maybe we could just kill all the Wraiths. Maybe we don't need to be afraid of this island anymore.
Yeah, there's probably
that's how you get killed in Symbaroum.
There's probably only a few more than 8 of them, right? Like, what could go wrong?
I'm sure he can keep all of them in his field of vision at the same time.
Yeah, and he definitely would roll successfully on Resolute every time.
That is the
it does
main
also
concern, isn't it?
It's worth noting as well, Holy Aura, you have to roll every turn to maintain it.
Yeah.
So.
I love the idea of Anton like running into a group of them ready to like cast his Holy Aura and then just be like, yeah, Holy Aura, please. Just absolutely failing and
nothing.
Yeah.
Immediately
slowly like surround him from all sides and he just disappears.
Yeah. John, what's Anton's strength?
That's a very good point. 7.
Okay, so 2 hits and he's down.
Yeah,
I guess that answers that question.
Yep. There we go. Next. Zeron. Oh, and thank you for the follow. Question: has Askar or someone else thought about taking trophies from beasts? You were the person who left the comment on YouTube. Who thought about taking trophies from beasts and monsters that they defeat because the group can make quite a bit of thala from it. Yes. I was going to mention to them pre-stream because it was a very good comment on YouTube, and then I forgot because we had StreamYard problems. But thankfully, you're here and have asked it, so there we go.
We have considered it on a couple of occasions. There was one where he poached someone else's kill, and I've taken the trophies of the boar monster that killed my cousin. And there was another boar monster that we considered taking a trophy from and selling their tusks, but it was horrifically corrupted and just sort of crumbled in our hands.
Yeah. I think Askar did get a boar tooth tusk that's like from one of the boars. I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like I
think the answer a lot of the time is that quite a lot of stuff you fought hasn't really got trophy, you know what I mean? Like they're either humans or they've like these, like there's nothing left. So there is some of that.
Or they're really big.
Or they're really big, or they're really corrupted, and it's like, do you want to mess around with the body? And everyone's like, fuck no. I'm not extracting some horribly corrupt organ from this thing to try and... So there is some rationale behind it, but I think it's definitely something we could think about more. I would flag that there are several occasions in this campaign, and I know we're not entirely murder hobo type of campaign, but I do feel if you're out in the wilderness and hostile humans attack you, you'll probably search their bodies afterwards if there's anything that helps you survive this hot, awful wilderness. And there's been several times where you've killed humans or humanoids and not bothered to search them, and they have had stuff on them.
Missing stuff. What did we do with the Lind one? Did we take any, or did we leave him to get like carved
That
up
was
by the
like
outpost?
that got carved up by the inhabitants
Yeah,
of the Yara outpost.
Yeah,
But I still think I think there's more attention that could be paid to it by the group, certainly.
Yeah, I remember wanting to take bits of Lindworm and it looking an awful lot like it would start another fight if we tried to do that.
Yeah, I think that was the case. But yeah, I think I think we have paid some attention to it past, but I think Zeron is 100% correct that more attention could be paid to like start to fuel like your increasingly expensive. It's one of these weird things, right? Like being an adventurer to get easy money, and it's like you can those levels of like earning and then spending start ratcheting up, right?
The business end of this business is just woefully inadequate for us right now.
Yeah. Steve, I do want to see the group's profit sheet at the end of this adventure. Have they got out of the red yet?
Not even close.
No. Especially
no
not
chance. No chance with 100 Thal or Dal here.
We got it back. Also, I talked him down from 200.
Also, later you then killed him, so it didn't really matter.
And got the money back.
Next comment, please. Dungeoneering VTT, good to see you. Question: do you think the 1 XP to reroll rule makes things too easy? It's like the players always have a second chance when things go wrong. Yeah, I get that, but also I do think it is obviously it's like harming their long-term build. I think it would make things too easy with a GM who is more generous with handing out the XP, but I intentionally slow burn this, as I do almost everything, which drives some of my players mad from time to time, because I feel like slow burn is actually more rewarding in the long run, especially when you know the campaign is long.
Yeah, spending XP on rerolls hurts.
Yeah,
like also In the year of our Lord 2020 Baldur's Gate 3, given that watching the streams of that, every third roll is taken with inspiration, so they get basically traditional D20 advantage on it, is like that seems to just be a pattern in these systems at the minute. It seems to be re-rolls or mechanics that give you another chance at the initial coin flip seem to be invoked.
And it's like, it is more used nowadays, but it's still not historic. Like the first system I ever played, Advanced Fighting Fantasy, you have luck points and use those to like reroll or modify the roll. I can't remember, but either way, like something to, I think having a resource to spend by this. And I think a lot of other games will just give you points. And in this, it's spending your progression, which I think it is pretty harsh. And I also would say we've had a lot of occasions where an XP has been spent and the second roll has been failed.
Yeah, I think I've wasted more XP than I have spent successfully.
Yeah,
it's definitely a very easy trap to fall into.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, especially for players where experience points can be used for other things as well. I know Mike was struggling with it a lot around the end of was it at the end of Copper Crown?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was around the end of Copper Crown, yeah.
Because he can use experience to remove corruption.
Yeah, there's that as well.
He didn't have experience.
And you have to spend XP to either XP or corruption to bind with something as well. So like Chris has bound the Iron Ring, which was a spend of an XP and stuff like that. I get what you mean, is that they can almost always fall back on something if they have XP saved up. If they don't, then they're just split out of luck. But like I think it's reasonable. I think it's enough of a sacrifice. Ultimately, the question is, do the players feel like it's a sacrifice? And I think they all do. So that's ultimately for me whether it, if they're doing it going, oh God, should I do this or not? Then to me it's a good system.
Yeah. Also, just the thing where the skill that you've been saving up for ages and not quite getting there because you've had to spend a few XP along the way, and then finally you buy it, which means that your store of XP for future rerolls is just empty. For a while. That's fun.
Said, maybe I would house rule that you can't reroll a fumble just to make things interesting. It's an option. I feel like I mean, the concept of fumble outside of combat doesn't particularly exist in Symbaroum anyway. Like if you roll a 20, it outside of combat, it doesn't matter. And even within combat, that itself is I mean, it's not a house rule, but it is an optional rule, isn't it? Perfect hits and perfect defense are, I think, are an optional rule we chose to take. So I don't think that's a bad idea, but it's not something we're doing at the moment. But I wouldn't mind adding it to a stock of things to discuss about whether we want to change it. I think we already have a thing you can't re-roll a death roll.
Yeah, I like that rule.
Yeah, so that's definitely a thing. Have we? I think we have had it that people have spent multiple XP on the same roller, right? Or did we?
So.
Did we rule that?
I thought we didn't allow that.
I think
So
you
maybe
can't do it more than once. I don't know. I think maybe we've said that you can't, but before we said that you can't.
Yeah,
people did do it a couple of times. Yeah.
I think we've said that you shouldn't, but
yeah,
I don't remember if we've got a hard and fast rule. Though,
yeah, ultimately, I don't mind people. I don't mind having a mechanism that's like a safety net, as long as it has a significant compromise to it. And I feel this one does as is, but I don't. Yeah, if you wanted to sabotage that safety net slightly, I think your proposition there is definitely one of the good ways to do it. Next. Did someone else have a question about armor or something? Was that also dungeoneering?
Oh, yes. Where is it? He asked.
Do these wraiths ignore armor when attacking? Yes, they definitely do. They definitely do. Yeah. Alternative damage isn't always strong. It's like it suggests that usually you use strong or resolute, but these wraiths specifically use strong in the book. So, yeah, cool. All right, then, if that is everything, then thank you very much, players and audience. A delight as always. We will be back next week with more Symbaroum. Until then, take care and stay safe and just have the best old little time. And we'll see you then. Goodbye.